Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're examining a fundamental structural failure inside our cognitive architecture. We're going to break down exactly why your brain's processing pipeline completely drops the thinking step. Now, this isn't about behavior or laziness. It's a hardwired mechanical issue where the brain prioritizes energy efficiency over accuracy. Here's our blueprint for the system today. We've got 1, the standard thinking system; 2, the biological energy constraint; 3, the system bypass mechanism; 4, the shortcut substitution layer; 5, the hidden reinforcement loop; and finally, 6, system-wide cognitive impact. Let's jump right in. Starting with Section 1, the standard thinking system. We have to establish the baseline first. The system maps our cognitive flow strictly through left to right. It's essentially stimulus, transformation, and reaction. First, you have the input. That's the information or the problem entering the system. Then processing, the internal evaluation. And finally, output, your actual response. It looks simple, right? But the mechanics inside the specific flow dictate literally everything about human cognition. Now, here is the absolute crucial part. Actual thinking, it only happens right here in the middle layer. Processing is this central node where we break information down, test logic, and compute actual models. Without it, internal reasoning simply doesn't exist. You see, thinking isn't the input you consume, and it's not the output you spit out. It is exclusively that transformation step in the middle. Moving to Section 2, the biological energy constraint. So why does this system break down? Well, we have to look at the biology. To put this into perspective, the human brain consumes roughly 20% of the body's total energy, despite just being a fraction of our weight. It's a massive metabolic drain. Because of this, the brain is fundamentally optimized to survive, which means it highly favors efficiency over accuracy. Real cognitive effort is just incredibly expensive. Because that cognitive load is so heavy, the brain runs on a dual processing model. By default, it relies on System 1, which is fast, automatic, pattern-based, and very low effort. It treats System 2, the slow, controlled, logic-based reasoning center, as completely optional. The brain will actively avoid turning on System 2 unless it's absolutely forced to, simply to conserve battery. Which brings us to Section 3, the system bypass mechanism. This is where it gets structurally fascinating. When an input hits, there is an internal decision layer that asks one very specific question. Is effort required? If the system decides, in that split second, that deep evaluation isn't strictly necessary for survival, the slow reasoning system is actively suppressed. It's not that we just forget to think, the system intentionally bypasses it. And this perfectly illustrates the structural collapse. Look at that glaring gap. The processing center is removed entirely, meaning your input maps directly to your output. No transformation, no internal modeling, zero verification. The architecture degrades into a purely reactive machine that still, somehow, manages to produce answers. Next up, Section 4, the shortcut substitution layer. So, with the central processing node completely offline, the system faces a problem. It has to substitute actual computation with low-effort approximations just to get an answer out. These shortcut systems step in. To fill the void, we're talking about basic pattern recognition, raw memory recall, blind assumptions, and increasingly outsourcing to external AI outputs. These generate fast answers based purely on familiarity, acting like an output machine with absolutely no internal validation. The result? You get an output completely divorced from internal verification. In this bypassed architecture, an assumption is treated directly as a verified conclusion. You aren't calculating anything. You're just recalling a shape or a pattern that looks vaguely correct. Guessing literally becomes mathematically equivalent to an answer. Let's look at Section 5, the hidden reinforcement loop. Now, because this broken pipeline still spits out an answer incredibly fast, the system actually reinforces itself. It flows exactly like this. You get an easy input, you completely skip the processing layer, you produce a fast output. And because you reacted quickly and it felt familiar, your brain rewards you. It creates a deep, unearned sense of false confidence. This brings us to a pretty profound realization about our cognitive architecture. The system doesn't fail visibly, it fails silently. Without that processing layer active to detect errors or test logic, mistakes just go completely unnoticed. Since the shortcut outputs are usually just good enough for immediate survival, there's no immediate penalty. This total lack of feedback continuously strengthens the shortcut behavior over time. When you put these two architectures side by side, the invisible suddenly becomes visible. The shortcut system gives you confidence without validation. It's unverified and purely reaction-based. The structured system, however, preserves that processing step. It demands high cognitive effort for guaranteed accuracy. One is a reaction engine. The other is an actual reasoning engine. Finally, Section 6, System-Wide Cognitive Impact. This mechanical breakdown doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It cascades across all our environments. We see this structural error manifest as widespread systemic failures. In education, rote memorization completely replaces structural understanding. In tech, we see it as outsourced thinking, where users blindly accept AI-generated responses. And in daily decision-making, first impression biases totally dominate because the processing layer was never engaged to weigh the alternatives. We really need to recognize that thinking is not our biological default. It is an activated effort. You have to deliberately force it to prevent a total system bypass. So I'll leave you with this metric to measure your own cognitive architecture. If your answer is instant, did your system actually process it, or did you just generate an output? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing your systems.